That's okay.
We will start the session in about 2 minutes. Please find your seats. Thank you. 그러면 뭐 일로 오셔야지. 이미 오셨네, 대사님. So if you weren't able to use your Wheel of Fortune ticket today, there will be another chance to use your ticket on Thursday.
How do I pronounce your name? Saingalakis. How do I do that? Yes, my blue today. I didn't. Everyone's so formal because the actual. No, I don't feel that bad. But everyone's inside. But yeah, Dr. Jules is in a sweater, so I can wear a sweater. Oh man, I'd love to be wearing a Bula shirt right now. So ask Diraj. Tell him, and he tells me. So who's not coming now? Someone's not coming?
No, she's connecting online virtually because this Zoom will join virtually immediately after
This is Minister Fitsum Asefa.
from Ethiopia.
Okay, do I say Adela as well, or just Asefa?
Asefa is enough.
Okay.
So if she could join, fine. If not,
I'll go
we
right
get the
to
other guys,
Professor,
and then we'll try at
Priyanta.
the last whether she could join.
Oh my God, Priyanta.
Professor Priyanta.
Professor Priyanta?
Yeah.
Okay, Senior Director from the for Energy.
Edimos.
Okay, yeah, got it.
Edimos.
Got it.
Oh, good.
All right, yep. Sorry? Yes. Yeah, Director General Kim will go first, okay?
She's online.
Okay, great.
She's online.
Do you want me to start? Yeah. But DG Kim. Okay, shall we get started? Good afternoon, everyone. If I'll kindly ask you to take a seat, and we'll get the session underway. Good. All right, we will begin. Good afternoon again, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us online and that are in the room with us for the Powering Justice, Digital Innovation for an Inclusive Energy Future session. We will now begin with the session, which focuses on two major trends shaping the future of climate action and sustainable development: the energy transition and digitalization. The session will explore efforts to address climate change by shifting to renewable energy while ensuring that the transition is just and inclusive, benefiting workers and communities dependent on fossil fuels. Digital tools and AI, artificial intelligence, play crucial roles in enhancing the efficiency, fairness, and transparency of the shift, from optimizing energy systems to improving access in underserviced areas. The session will explore whether digitalization and AI can accelerate the energy transition, highlighting real-world examples and emphasizing collaborative efforts among governments, technology companies, and communities to develop equitable AI-powered energy solutions that promote universal access. Joining us to discuss these important issues are a number of distinguished guests and speakers, but first I would like to invite GGGI's Director General Kim, to give the opening remarks for the session. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us, distinguished guest, Your Excellency Fitsum Asefa Adela, the Minister of Planning and Development, Ethiopia, who is joining now through online, and Ambassador Hyun Jenny Kim, the rising star, the CEO of the Global Industry Hub, and also Dr. Vijay Atunga of the ADB, and Mr. Beisetu, Deputy Chief of Mission of German Embassy, and Victor Lee, the key figure of the government of Alberta of Canada. And there are so many leaders here joining now. And my colleagues and friends, I'm really delighted to open the session on the digital innovation for an inclusive energy future. A few months ago, I attended the Global Energy Commission organized by International Energy Agency, and my close friend, the head of IEA, Dr. Patti Birol, gave me a kind of alarming report. According to him, the world invested about $2 trillion on clean energy, while the investment on fossil fuel was just limited by $1 trillion. So during the past 10 years, the clean investment doubled during the past 10 years. This year, the total energy investment of the world would reach about $3.3 trillion, 2.2 on clean energy. That's a good news. But what is not so comfortable or even disappointing is the imbalance. More than 80% of the clean energy investment was made in the advanced economies, plus China. So really, many countries in the world are left behind. And with that, we cannot say this is just inclusive and sustainable transition. Simply, it cannot be. And what about AI? 2 days ago, I attended France-Korea Tech Summit, and there's another imbalance. Only a few is leading the game of AI transformation. It's about more than $1 trillion investment. But almost all the rest of the people and the countries are just watching that big investment. And the problem is the key, only a few players are not revealing who are designing the AI system and how they are training the AI system. And we don't know who gets what. It might create another imbalance, which is not obviously sustainable. But there's another good news. AI can bring us, if well managed, well guided, can give us many things. I like to quote again the report, the analysis of the IEA. According to IEA, it can save up 8% of energy consumption, and it could save more than $100 billion in power plant. And as you know, it can smartly integrate renewable power into power grid. And recently, Jeju made an MOU with Hyundai Motors, and it is about V2G, vehicle to grid. With the adoption of AI and digital technologies, now we are seeing the convergence between vehicle and power grid. Yes, that's the thing we need to focus. If well guided, if well supported, if well cooperated, AIA can give us better access to data, better access to finance. That's the reason why we are opening this important session. And AI can help us to decarbonize our carbon-intensive industrial structure. So since the beginning of this year, we have taken 3 important initiatives: carbon market, AI, and clean hydrogen. All those three initiatives are closely interconnected. And we are going to do it in a very innovative way and also very inclusive way. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director General Kim, for the welcoming remarks to set the scene. I'll now invite, joining us online, Minister Fitsum Assefa from the Ministry of Planning and Development from Ethiopia.
Good. Thank you so much, brother. Thank you for inviting me for this important event, and it's a privilege to be here, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's a privilege to join you for this critical session. The convergence of the energy transition and digitalization is the defining challenge and opportunity of our time. The question before us is, can digitalization and AI accelerate the energy transition, which is one that Ethiopia has been answering with action. We believe the answer is a resounding yes, but only if we anchor it in justice. Powering justice means ensuring that the transition to a net zero future is inclusive, equitable, and sustainable, especially for those most dependent on traditional systems and most vulnerable to being left behind. Over the past decade, Ethiopia has embedded this principle into our climate resilient green economy strategy. We have moved from theory to practice, demonstrating how digital innovation can be a pivotal enabler for an inclusive energy future. Let me share our experiences. Through our National Electrification Program 2.0, we set an ambitious target for universal access by 2030. Here, it's worth mentioning that 95% of the electricity in Ethiopia comes from clean, renewable hydro sources, especially the industry sector, the manufacturing industries, like almost 100% get their energy sources from this clean hydro source. The only problem we face is energy access in rural areas, especially for cooking and other agricultural activities. Our strategy was deliberately integrated, where 65% through the national grid and 35% through off-grid solutions. To date, we have raised national electricity access to nearly 65%, but true success lies in how we reach the last mile. As you can see, 35% of our population still lacks for access to clean energy. Digitization is at the core of this effort. Data-driven planning. The first one speaks to the planning of the whole development process. We use GIS-based electrification planning to identify and map remote communities, ensuring our investments are targeted and equitable. The second financial model, we have enhanced the viability of off-grid solutions by deploying mobile payment platforms and pay-as-you-go solar systems. This has empowered over 3 million households with clean energy and transforming rural economies. The 4G smart infrastructure, our focus on modern grid technologies and digital monitoring system allows for more efficient management of renewable energy generation and grid performance. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, guiding this transformation is our Digital Ethiopia 2025 strategy, now followed by Digital Ethiopia 2030. Which drives the modernization and diversification of our energy sector. It promotes private sector investment and the integration of non-hydro renewables like solar, wind, and when supported by a backbone of robust digital infrastructure. Furthermore, we are placing women and youth at the heart of this transition. Through initiatives like the Productive Use of Energy program, women entrepreneurs are using solar-powered mills and irrigation pumps to build businesses. We are investing in digital skills so that our youth can become investors in Ethiopia's growing green economy. However, as we all know, the path is not without challenge. Financing constraint and the impact of climate shocks on our hydro-powered dependent system are real obstacles. This challenge reminds us that technology alone is not a silver bullet. It must be coupled with inclusive policies, reliable finance, and strong partnership to avoid digital exclusion and inequitable outcomes. Looking ahead, Ethiopia is focusing on 3 strategic priorities to accelerate a just transition. 1, building a digital energy ecosystem where we are investing in smart grids, data-driven planning tools, and an integrated national energy information system to connect all actors. 2, mobilizing climate finance. We have prepared a national carbon market strategy which runs from 2025 to 2035 and are actively working with partners to attract investment into clean energy adaptation. 3rd is strengthening coordination and inclusion. We are finalizing regulations to ensure our climate and energy policies are implemented currently from the federal level down to local communities and cooperatives. Excellencies, distinguished guests, the outcomes of this session seek scalable AI solutions, strategic partnerships, and investment-ready pilot projects, and co-created policy frameworks which are precisely what we need to collaborate. We must ensure that every innovation from a solar home system to a carbon market platform ultimately serves the community. We must use technology not just to power machines, but to power opportunity, power equality, and power hope. Ethiopia stands ready to work with GGGI, IRENA, and all partners here today to build a future where clean, digitally enabled energy lights every home, empowers every woman, and connects every child to opportunity. I thank you.
Thank you, Minister Asefa, for those remarks and joining us from Ethiopia. Continuing with the keynote remarks, I will now invite Professor Priyantha Wijayatunga to the lectern to deliver your remarks. Thank you.
Okay. DG King, Your Excellencies, distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me thank GGGI for inviting me to deliver this keynote speech, which I value very much. Representing ADB, Asian Development Bank, I would like to deliver this to give the vision what we have as probably the leading development partner in Asia Pacific region, particularly in the energy sector. And I thought my title of my speech should be the title of my energy policy in Asian Development Bank, which was approved just only about 4 years ago, which is quite relevant and even today and for the next many years to come, I suppose. At the same time, I should tell you that we are conducting the midterm review of this policy as mandated in the policy itself, of course, at a time, quite a challenging time, I must say, when it comes to the energy sector development in the world because of the geopolitical environment we are in now. So it's a very tough job reviewing this policy at this time, and to get a consensus among the shareholders how to move forward is quite a challenge. Having said all this, I must say that we still have a policy which is valid and which is going to be very much relevant to Asia Pacific region. So I use the title of the energy policy, therefore, to show you what exactly we should be doing in the energy sector. Sorry. So the Energy Policy 2021 ADB Energy Policy is titled as Inclusive, Just and Affordable Low Carbon Transition in Asia and the Pacific. Why this is, every word in this title is very important for us. It should be inclusive, as you have just heard from the previous keynote speaker and also from DG Kim. It will have to be just, and also it should be affordable to everybody whom you try to serve. And of course, low carbon transition is very important because at the end of the day, we are trying to see what we can do for the benefit of the global community in terms of addressing the climate challenge. Now, I'll take you through quickly these different areas. I'll look at the opportunities, challenges, and opportunities in the energy sector, focusing on Asia-Pacific region. Why we, at the end of the day, all what we have to do is to make sure that we address the issues in the society, not energy sector issues or not water sector issues, but the societal problems will have to be addressed. And in most cases, it's not just an energy solution, but usually it's a cross-sectoral solution. Many sectors will be involved in finding solutions to the problems of the society, and we need to recognize that. So let's look at the kind of energy challenges we have and the opportunities it provides for us to get involved in. And ADB energy policy, I will quickly run through, and then what kind of support for energy transition we provide, and digital innovation and smart technologies which can be brought in to accelerate this energy transition. And two, three innovative projects which I would like to quote for your own benefit to give a flavor of what we are doing, and few final remarks. So if you look at energy sector issues, I'm sure you all know all these issues, but I would like to bring some of these numbers. If you carefully look at energy access problems in Asia Pacific region, still we have 350 million people without adequate supply. And you may wonder what it is. I mean, if you look at 350 million, this is about, if you look at comparisons, this is almost 10 times that of Sri Lanka, where I come from. And that's a large number. When you say inadequate, what it means is that you may have your connection, but you may not have the right voltage, right frequency, the continuity of supply. Just to give you an example, for some time I was representing ADB, I was in Nepal during maybe 2012, 2013. During the winter, I had power only 4 hours a day. Imagine during the winter, when you don't have electricity when you have electricity only for 4 hours, it's going to be tough. And that's the kind of quality of supply we were looking at in that region. So 350 million people not having adequate supply. And then 60 million people still no access to electricity. This is almost the size of Tamil Nadu, 60 million people, or 3 times of Sri Lanka, and still no access to electricity, about 60 million. And another almost 1 billion people without clean energy for cooking. And then now, increasingly, with climate change coming in, you can see 500 million people having issues in urban areas, not having enough cooling. You see how many people dying of heat waves simply because they don't have adequate cooling. That's going to be an increasingly important issue which we need to address. So if you look at the next set of challenges, Energy security. Obviously, when all these regional conflicts or global conflicts start, the energy security is a major issue. Now, after pandemic, and you know how many countries went into red, and fortunately, many of those countries survived. But if you look at my own country, Sri Lanka, as you know very well, they had a huge economic collapse. In fact, why? One of the major reasons is energy security. The energy markets went up, and the price volatility couldn't be handled by the country. And at one point, actually, the country's reserves went down to as low as only $20 million. Can you imagine? We couldn't import adequate oil to power the generating stations, and the long queues for motor vehicles and so on and so forth. So energy security is a major issue with regional conflicts coming in and the global conflicts, as you know. Now with Russian invasion of Ukraine, the energy markets went up and down, and most of the countries couldn't handle. And so and increasingly that's becoming an issue, and I don't know how long it will take to make sure that our energy supplies are secure. So the other one is sector governance. If you look at sector governance, and across Asia-Pacific region, it's an issue. If you look at most of the utilities, most of the energy utilities around, they are all state-owned utilities, most of them. And the governance is an issue. When it comes to attracting capital, huge capital needs in the sector, it's an issue which we need to look at. That's a big challenge. And then, obviously, I don't have to reiterate this, mistargeted subsidies, particularly in the fossil fuel sector. And then, as you know, you need huge investments in the sector, which takes, the sector governance more or less the most important part of it. Environmental sustainability. I don't have to again reiterate the fact that Asia-Pacific region has a huge, emission issue, greenhouse gas emission issue. More than 50% of the world's GHG emissions coming from this region. And you have a huge coal power stock, fossil fuel stock, and all these will have to be addressed. So everybody think that what we have to solve is actually the future generation issues. No, we have a huge fossil fuel stock sitting here emitting, day in, day out, a lot of greenhouse gases. So what do you do with it? And that's an important problem which we need to look at and solve. So these are the challenges. At the same time, we have few opportunities. One thing, changing energy landscape, cheap renewable energy. 10 years ago, we wouldn't be talking about solar power, or even for that matter, wind power. Now it's cheap, and therefore it can compete with conventional generation. Therefore, it's an opportunity. And 10 years ago when I joined, or let's say 20 years ago when I joined ADB, I wouldn't have gone to Nepal and told them, put up solar panels, because you can't give that kind of advice to a poor country when it's more expensive than conventional power. Whereas now you can go around. Same energy services can be provided at a lower cost. And then maturing digital technology, that's the topic of the day here. And digital technologies, smart technologies, and low carbon new technologies are becoming cheaper and making they are available in the market, and that helps. Then, of course, global commitments we have, like Paris Agreement and Sustainable Development Goal, and so on. And from our part, Asian Development Bank, we roughly lend about $4 to $5 billion a year in the energy sector itself. That's about 20 to 25% of total lending in the bank. And we would like to increase that to about $6.5 billion within the next 2 to 3 years. And our commitments, we have a $100 billion target by 2030 from 2019. And about 75% of our lending should be tagged as climate financing. These are targets which we ourselves have set. And also, we have more money available now to lend. For instance, about 50% increase in in our headroom because we had revised our capital adequacy framework, which means the current level of lending is about $25 billion. This can go up to about $30 billion or $35 billion within the next few years. So we have more money coming in. These are kind of opportunities we have to look at some of these issues. If you look at ADB energy policy, you have these 5 important principles. Energy access, one of the most important, we cannot forget because, as I said, we are here to solve the problems of the society. Energy access is a major issue. Along with it, we can always look at environmental sustainability, which go hand in hand now, unlike those good old times. The third is, as I said, the governance side. You have to look at that. And then regional cooperation. Regional cooperation helps a lot to bring down the cost of energy supplies and also knowledge transfers, knowledge sharing, and which eventually helps all these countries a lot. The last but not least, as I said, the solutions are cross-sectoral in nature. We have to recognize that. And therefore, we have to work together for those cross-sector solutions. The times that energy sector used to work alone is gone. Now we have to work across. And so these are the 5 principles. If you look at key lessons and experience we have had, in ADB during the last so many years, we have to tailor interventions for local context. That I don't have to reiterate, and that's obvious. You can't have a solution which fits everybody, but it should be tailor-made. And capacity building and institutional support. Most of our developing member countries really need a lot of capacity development, human resource development, institutional capacity development. That's we have been doing a lot. And the other is leveraging regional cooperation. As I said, if you cooperate, you have a lot to cooperate in and also deliver quite a lot. Major challenge, policy and regulatory barriers, as I said, a major issue, and limited infrastructure, financing gaps. These are some of the major challenges which we need to overcome. Innovative solutions, deploying innovative technologies, and some of the technologies we have had in recent times have been very helpful in addressing solutions. And innovative financing, as I said, in ADB itself, we have innovated quite a lot in type of various modes of financing, like results-based lending, policy-based lending, and then blended financing and so on, which helps these countries to borrow at reasonable rates. And of course, scalable business solutions. And roll out digital innovation. Naturally, if you look at the power sector itself, this obviously enhances grid flexibility, which allows more renewable energy to come in. As you know, intermittency in renewable energy has been a major issue when it comes to cleaning up power sector, and digital technologies help a lot. Also, the other area is that unlike these good old times, you don't have to keep a lot of reserve margins in the generating system. When it comes to use our digital technologies, you can use it to minimize the cost of supplies. And the other important thing is that supports consumer engagement and energy efficiency. That's another area where digital innovation helps a lot. I don't have to go into details, but all of you must be knowing what we can do, what we cannot do with digital. But one thing what is important is that the digital divide will have to be addressed. And digital technology can be brought in, but if you don't have the capacity to use and operate and maintain these systems, you have issues. And that we need to address. Smart grids, if you don't make the grid smarter, you will not be able to have your energy transition. And also, most of the time, for years, people used to forget the grid side of the story because they thought generation is the one which needs to be cleaned up. It's not the case. If you want to evacuate generation to the load centers, you need transmission, and transmission needs to be smarter, and more digital technology will have to come in. Quickly, 3 examples which I wanted to give you. The recent Lao monsoon wind power project, which is a 600 or 660 megawatt wind power project. It has all the buzzwords in it. One thing, it's renewable wind, and it is in Laos and exporting to Vietnam, so it's cross-border. And this is the largest ever cross-border renewable energy project, wind power project in Southeast Asia. And that has been financed with private sector window in ADB. Sovereign comes in to a certain extent, but mostly non-sovereign. And the other important project is just approved just a couple of days ago, Maharashtra Power Distribution Enhancement Program. Now, this is basically to solarize the distribution, the agriculture sector. You know, in India, it's a major issue that agriculture tariffs are very low, and the distribution companies are going bankrupt as a result. And this is basically to bring in renewable energy to address that issue. And in Maharashtra, so it's a cross-sectoral water, energy, irrigation issue, project. The last is in Sri Lanka. We did a demonstration project with agrivoltaics. As you know, Sri Lanka is very famous for tea, an excellent area to put up solar power plants, but you can't. You always think that if you put up solar, you know, you don't get enough sunlight for the tea plantation. But this is a demonstration project to see how we can use tea plantations to put up solar panels also while growing tea to extract energy as much as possible for those land areas. Well, land is scarce in any part of the world, particularly in a place like Sri Lanka, it is scarce. So these are overall, three important projects we have done, and we usually have a lot more than this. I mean, this year we had about 30 odd energy projects and of similar nature. Few final remarks. Overall, keep in mind, whatever we do, the energy access, energy security, sector governance, environment, all these continue to be issues. You need to keep all these things in mind when you try to find solutions for the society. And international financing like ADB, GGI, these institutions have very important role to play in different subsectors, naturally. Obviously, GGI is not a lending institution, whereas ADB is, and you can bring in capacity development and that kind of interventions, whereas we can put in more money to finally lend into these technologies. And gradually we have to keep in mind we need to bring in more and more innovative technologies and move away from traditional technologies, because traditional technologies can be looked after by anybody, but we have to catalyze investments in new technologies. And then the other most important thing is that when it comes to sovereign financing, we should make sure that this sovereign financing is utilized to maximize private sector financing to be brought into the sector, because the enormous needs in the sector cannot be fulfilled with only sovereign financing. In a place like ADB, we can come in for technical cooperation, capacity development, policy advisory and reform support, which we have been doing quite a lot in recent times, and then financing investments. We can collaborate with GGGI, particularly on the capacity development side and joint initiatives and knowledge sharing. And we have one of the largest gatherings of energy professionals every year called Asia Clean Energy Forum. We have about over 1,500 in-person participation, and we can collaborate in that and any other capacity development work which we do. We are collaborating, for instance, in Singapore Energy Week this week. Actually, I managed to find some slot to come here, otherwise I would have been in Singapore. I am off to Singapore actually tomorrow early morning. And we are very much involved, and particularly when it comes to capacity development and knowledge sharing. With that, I stop here. Thank you very much once again for the opportunity to speak to you. It's great to be here, and I am sure we will have many more visits here in the future. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Priyantha. Before we move on to our final keynote speaker, I'm going to invite all of the panelists and speakers to the front so we can do a quick photo. Director General Kim needs to move on to his next commitment, so we'll take a quick photo and then we'll invite our final keynote speaker. think that's everybody done. All the, Barry, everyone, we can all come up.
Mr. Director, please. You did a great job.
Thank you, Director General Kim, and we'll continue with the final keynote remarks. I'll invite Joran Bissert, the Deputy Chief of Mission from the German Embassy here in the Republic of Korea. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor for me to be here today at the Global Green Growth Week 2025 under the topic Innovation in a World of Transition. And I'm particularly pleased to see that among the supporters of the conference is also RWE, which is one of the leaders in the German energy transition. And I'm even more pleased to report a little bit about one of the projects Germany is undertaking together with GGGI in Asia. Today's session, Powering Justice, Digital Innovation for an Inclusive Energy Future, is very important and timely as we engage with the dual transformations of decarbonization and digitization. I think the topic reminds us of the vital role which technology should play, at least, not only as a means of enhancing efficiency, but also as a pathway towards inclusion and equity for all stakeholders involved. My country, Germany, is firmly committed to advancing a just energy transition, ensuring that no community is left behind as we transition to a low-carbon future. This applies to our approach in promoting the energy transition in our own country. We are devising ways to ensure that vulnerable groups do not suffer disproportionately from the consequences of the energy transition, for example, through increasing energy prices. But this commitment is also reflected in our international cooperation, including through the International Climate Initiative, a joint initiative of the Federal Ministry for the Environment, Nature, Conservation, Nuclear Safety and Consumer Protection, the Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Energy, and the Federal Foreign Office. Since 2008, through ICI, Germany has supported over 1,000 climate and biodiversity projects in approximately 150 partner countries with a total of almost 7.5 billion euros. Through ICI, we work with partners like GGGI to develop practical solutions that enable countries to access and scale up technical capacity, develop tools, and access finance to achieve climate goals. And one of these examples where Germany is cooperating with GGGI is the Asia Low Carbon Buildings Transition Project, and the acronym is ALCBT. And this project is implemented by GGGI and funded by the German government through ICI. ALCBT works with 5 Asian countries: Cambodia, India, Indonesia, Thailand, and Vietnam. And the purpose is to catalyze their transition to energy-efficient buildings, and with the aim that that will significantly reduce greenhouse gases. Buildings account for nearly 40% of global energy-related emissions. And I think it's really a big challenge to bring down their CO2 footprint. This is true for Germany, but it's also true for rapidly urbanizing Asia. And I think in this field, the potential of reduction is really immense. ALCBT will help governments and the private sector to unlock this potential through policy support, capacity building, investment mobilization, and digital innovation. Under this initiative, there are two innovative digital platforms which have been developed. The first one is Asian Build, and that stands for Building Investment for Low Carbon Transition. This platform is a regional one-stop shop connecting building sector stakeholders to accelerate the mobilization of financing for sustainable buildings across Southeast Asia. ASEAN Build connects project developers, financial institutions, and energy service companies through the provision of regional knowledge sharing, energy efficiency saving and emission reduction calculator, a low carbon building database, and energy efficiency project matchmaking. Recently launched at the ASEAN Energy Business Forum 2025 in Kuala Lumpur, it is recognized as a flagship regional product and part of the priority economic deliverables of the 2025 ASEAN Chairmanship of Malaysia. With buildings accounting for 22% of the region's energy consumption in 2022 and projected to rise by 56% by 2050, ASEAN Build will play a key role in achieving the ASEAN Plan of Action for Energy Cooperation 2026 to 2030, a target of reducing energy intensity by 40% by 2030. The second platform is called the Building Emission Assessment Tool, or BEAT, the lucky one, a web-based platform that quantifies both embodied and operational carbon emissions throughout a building's life cycle. This tool empowers policymakers, architects, and developers, among others, with data-driven insights to reduce emissions effectively, since the tool uses data from real buildings in ALCBT countries to generate benchmarks values for different building typologies. BEAT is also designed with a modular structure that allows for ongoing updates and future expansion. Both platforms were developed through consultations with local experts and stakeholders, and probably what is even more important is that they are free and publicly available, ensuring that data and knowledge remain accessible to all. Beyond technology, what truly matters is justice and access. These tools can reach their full potential and purpose when they are inclusive, when building owners, developers, architects, local governments, and communities can use them to make informed decisions and attract green investment and improve livelihoods. When innovation is shared, we can build capacity together and we can promote a fair distribution of the benefits. As we look ahead, Germany remains committed to supporting regional initiatives like this one that connect the gaps between digital advancements and climate justice. Through partnerships like the ICI GGGI ALCBT project, we look forward to continuing this collaboration and ensuring that the future is not only low carbon, but also data-driven, and probably even more importantly, fair and inclusive. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chief Beysert. That concludes our keynote or key remark portion of the session. We'll now move to the panel discussion. And I'll invite our moderator, Dr. Male Fofana, our regional director for Asia for GGGI, and the other panelists to take their seats. Thank you. Also joining the panel today, we have Her Excellency Hyoyoon Jenny Kim, Chief Executive Officer of the Global Industry Hub. Also joining us on the panel today, we have Ms. Katerina Singalakis, the Regional Director for Africa and former Director for the Pacific. As well, we have Dr. Siliwanti, she's an expert from the Minister of Development and Funding Innovation from Indonesia, and Mr. Victor Lee from a representative of the Alberta government here in the Embassy of Canada in Korea. And also sitting at the very end, we have our country representative from Ethiopia, Mr. OK Daniel Ogboyana. Over to you, Male.
Thanks very much, Daniel. Thanks also for being our MC. I'm really honored and to have these esteemed panelists, and I think it's quite good to have the diversity in this room today that can give us different perspective. You heard different intervention this morning. We talked about 700 million people not having access to energy. In addition to that, we talk about 3 billion not having access to modern source of energy as well, relying on solid fuel as well. And this became a big challenge in the sense that we not only talked about having access to energy, but how we can help to mainstream and integrate inclusivity in just energy transition. So with that, we will hear different perspectives when it's come to regulation policy, when it's come to investments, when it's come to decarbonization, and some great example applied to those sectors will help us today to understand what are the best way to just reduce the learning curve, but also helping countries to mainstream those elements. So to start, I would like to invite first Ambassador Jenny Kim to really give us the perspective on the global industry part, because she is leading the Global Industry Hub. And I think with that, let's say, current position, that's give an opportunity to understand more the industry, but also what are the large-scale solutions that have been applied in those sectors. So for that, I would like to know, Global Industry Hub support many large-scale renewable and smart grid projects. How is AI being integrated into those initiatives and enhanced when it comes to decarbonization, but also inclusivity as well?
Thank you very much, Male. Yeah, it's really a pleasure to be a part of Global Green Growth Week, which is a flagship event of the Global Industry Hub, as well as attracts all relevant stakeholders to the issue of green growth, particularly in developing countries and emerging economies. And thank you for your question. First of all, I would like to say that this topic is extremely important and timely, because climate change and artificial intelligence, we usually say these are two factors reshaping the global trend. So can we achieve the effective addressing climate change? Can we achieve the Paris Agreement 1.5 degree Celsius ambition? But at the same time, can we really achieve so-called human-centered digitalization, including artificial intelligence? So the Global Industry Hub is a philanthropic organization. So because we are a philanthropic organization, although I am working for industry sectors decarbonization, one of the key factors I should not forget is human-centered development. So although we support industry sector to accelerate their decarbonization efforts, for example, steel companies, like chemical companies or cement and concrete companies, we support those companies to come up with like new low carbon business plans and decisions. However, at the same time, we always think about what's the human factor of such efforts. So in that sense, when we discuss about digitalization, particularly AI, I mean, how can we bring human-centered peace to our work? That's extremely crucial. I must confess that I do not have very clear-cut answer about this important question, because it is true that because of the AI, people say, I mean, experts say, like industry, for example, like Hyundai Motors or big Korean chemical companies, you should compete with data centers to secure enough electricity. Because data centers, because of the AI, data centers need huge volume of electricity. Then the electricity supply is anyway limited. So the corporations, you should compete with data centers. And also at the same time, as already mentioned by previous speakers, actually the countries who have advanced digital technology, they go faster. And then countries who do not have such so-called like infrastructure, they are left behind. So how can we narrow the gap? So what I want to emphasize is, so AI, digital technology, they are not the target, they are not the aim itself. They are the tools, actually, they are enablers. So how can we use those enablers to the decarbonization work, human-centered decarbonization work? That's one thing. And then secondly, how can different players, governments, intergovernmental organizations, multilateral development banks, philanthropies like me, and private sector work together, making productive partnership to look at the most delayed, marginalized community, people, and sectors. Usually private sectors, they are looking at the most advanced, the most competent areas. But philanthropy, intergovernmental organizations like Global Green Growth Institute can identify who are the most delayed, most marginalized, so that the partnership can target such vulnerable groups. I think actually artificial intelligence and digitalization help because it is much more easier to share information, to share best practices, and to come up with very targeted, customized approach. So there, I believe, we have an opportunity to work together. I think I have to stop here. Yeah.
Thanks very much, Jenny Kim. A round of applause for Jenny for this very good setting the scene. It's true, and I think it's good that you remind us that AI are just enablers, and I think it's quite important that there is collaboration between different partners, private sector, public sectors, and also philanthropy, to see exactly how they can support the most marginalized, to just help them to just have access to those technology, as well as reducing the learning curve when it's come to that. But that's the perspective that you gave us a sense as well. And I think it's also come to the policy, how government are setting their policy to help the different actors to just contribute to the targets. And with that, I would like to invite our Dr. Siliwanti from Indonesia to hear more on the government perspective, how Indonesia is integrating digitization and AI to the national energy transition strategy to ensure the transition is just, but also very inclusive. It's working, yeah. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. I would like to thank you for having me in this important meeting, and that I would like saying that Indonesia places justice at the core of its energy transition. Guided by our policy long-term development plan 2025-2045, and as well as medium-term development plan 2025-2029, Indonesia is committed to ensuring that transformation toward a green economy prioritize not only efficiency. This is the technology thing that we have, but also equity and inclusivity across all segments of society. So I think that digitalization and AI are not only tools for efficiency, they are a key enabler for energy justice. Particularly, you mentioned about this one in the concept note, right? Women, youth, indigenous communities living in areas with limited access to the energy. Maybe I would like to give the example to you all that this is just to express what we done so far, right? So, and we will continue until 2029 within 5 years, and then maybe after until 2045. That we already deploying, for example, solar-powered microgrids with smart controllers and remote monitoring in remote eastern Indonesia. We call it, this island is 3 islands in Maluku. It's very eastern Indonesia. This system have enabled villages, often home to the indigenous groups there, to access 24-hour electricity for the first time, supporting evening education, health services, and women-led small businesses. I was there maybe last year, so this is the first time for that island, right, to have like the 24 hours. It is not easy to come up with the what is solar power plant there. And also, I would like to give you the example. Indonesia has developed a just transition mapping approach. This is integrating a socio-economic and spatial data region still dependent on coal, such as South Sumatra and East Kalimantan. This mapping allows us to design retraining programs and economic diversification initiatives so that workers there and local communities can adapt and benefit from the ongoing energy transition. So they are still depend on coal. Right? So now they are get a retraining again to engage, join with the energy transition. Indonesia is also prioritizing just energy transition by upscaling youth and women in digital energy system and clean services, as of course outlined in our green economy roadmap. These communities are not only users but increasingly operators and innovators. And through AI, our state electricity company in Indonesia is improving demand forecasting and equitable load distribution, while mobile-based platforms help deliver targeted energy subsidies and allow transparent community-level energy monitoring. So this is just to give you the example. Of course, we have a lot of challenging, right? So how we can engage every segment of the community in the energy transition. So in short, I would like to say that when AI and digital solutions are deployed intentionally, inclusively, and equitably, they can help ensure we that no one is left behind in the energy transition. So this is that I would like to stop.
Yeah, thanks very much. A round of applause for our panelists. I'm very happy that you just give us concrete example, like island having electricity for 24 hours, and I think that changed a lot the life of this community, where they just start new economic activities, and also being able also to be connected to the world, right? Because when you have access to energy, you have access to internet, you have now the possibility to have a TV and see what's happening in general, and beyond that, starting also to prepare how you localize workforce on capacity buildings, understanding what's coming as technology, how they can be able to being not left behind, being recycled and refreshed, and ensuring that job is created as well when we're making transition and transformation. And the last point you mentioned, also making sure that youth and women are not only users, but they are those who's creating change, leading change, and ensuring that they will be able to be operated. And I think digitalization and climate tech has become much more important in this particular aspect. And when we talk about innovation, I think when we say Alberta, we think directly innovation, Victor, right? So I want to hear from your side that Canada energy sectors are rapidly adopting AI to reduce the GHG emission. What specific innovation could be relevant for developing economies to pursue just transition from your point of view?
Thank you. So before I begin, I just want to have a quick question. How many of you have visited or heard about Alberta? Okay, so roughly 10%. That's usually the same wherever we go. But how many of you have heard about Canada? Everyone, right? So Alberta is well known for Rocky Mountains and Banff and national parks and, it's great visiting location for vacations. However, a lot of people don't know that Alberta produces about 80% of Canada's oil, about 70% of Canada's gas, and also globally speaking has world, third largest oil reserve, and Canada, roughly, I think, 7th or 8th largest natural gas reserve, and currently produces almost 3 million tons of blue hydrogen and leading Canada's hydrogen industry. So with that background, a lot of energy companies are focusing on reducing greenhouse gas emissions. We are energy superpower and energy economic engine of Canada. So out of Canada's total greenhouse gas emissions, about 50% of emission comes from this one province. But of course, this province is about 7 times larger than the land of South Korea. Canada is about 100 times of South Korea. So land size-wise, it's huge. So one province in Western Canada produces about 50% of Canada's total greenhouse gas emissions. And the main source is oil and gas industry. So our digital transformation and using AI is mainly in the upstream energy sector, as well as midstream and downstream, so entire value chain. We have all the global major oil and gas producers using AI tools to optimize and increase efficiencies of their energy usage so that they reduce cost, but also increase energy efficiency. They also use AI tools for energy safety. We have about 50% of Canada's energy projects and also over 450,000 kilometers of pipeline, upstream, midstream, and downstream. So they're using AI tools to manage all this energy safety, leak detections, corrosions, and erosions. And also downstream side, refineries are using it to increase blending ratios and also managing the emissions from their field. So you can see that a lot of data, digital transformation and AI is used in energy sector. However, going back to Ambassador Kim, as well as the doctors, Indonesia's case, Canada is seen as energy superpower, but because we're so big in our country, there's a lot of communities left without electricity, clean water, like many other developing countries. Canada is not always the have 100% energy, electricity, or clean cooking. A lot of indigenous regions are there, lacking infrastructure as well as electricity. So the government is also putting a lot of energy and effort funding the indigenous-led microgrid, using AI to optimize renewable generation and cutting diesel usage in those suburbs. Also, we are supporting women-led tech companies or startups, and by funding them to have more capacities. And also a lot of sub-regions, there are not enough data. So we are relying on the human touch, the indigenous groups. We are working with the actual indigenous groups to get their hundreds of years of community experience and community knowledge into database of AI to increase the usage and also community level energy efficiency. So in summary, Canada is using AI and digital transformation to reduce not only greenhouse gas emissions and increase efficiency, but also increase access and empowerment of the local communities and indigenous community.
Yeah. Thanks very much. Round of applause for Victor Lee. I think it's great to give us this opportunity. Yes, I think digital to scales can reduce 20%, GHG emission by 2050. That's really that kind of general comments related to that. And you give a great example with Alberta, how we use it with safety measure, but also reducing emission, as well as ensuring that the involvement of women-led community and community knowledge. I'm really interested in the fact that you mentioned that We always think about, knowledge, it's just from the technology provider perspective, but how you can use community-based approach to just integrate that knowledge to feed to the AI technology, help also to have something locally led in that particular aspect. So we hear from also industry, we hear from Alberta, we hear from the government side. So Katrina, as you are leading the Asia Pacific and also experience with the Africa as well as regional director, I would like to hear, from your perspective, while we're working with the government and the community to integrate AI and digital tools into the national energy transition, what are the key elements that we have to take into consideration in that particular aspect?
Well, when we're working, when we look at inclusive energy development, we need to think about, there's the potential of the technology, but then there's how it's going to be used and how it's going to reach all the communities and in every country. So I think it's been referred to a lot, the last mile. To achieve that, we need to work and see how we can work and make sure that the data is available locally, that the data being used is based on local data, is embedded into local systems. We're working with, GGI works with ministries, subnational organizations, utilities, and also down to the community level to make sure that the data that is being collected is the reality on the ground, that we're responding to the real context on the ground, and that the data is being managed locally. So we're setting up the databases, the data systems, processes, the management tools, the applications, through national processes embedded into national systems, and that way they can reflect the reality on the ground, they can be used by the intended users, and they can provide accurate results and information. I think part of that element then is what also has been spoken about is in order to get to that level, we need to have, there needs to be a workforce that is ready for the digital transformation. That applies across all sectors, but certainly for the energy sector as well. In digital transformation strategies, the training of the workforce is a big part of those strategies, and how can we support that? We need to look at ministries, the civil service, but also the private sector. And above all, very important part of that is small and medium enterprises, SMEs, startups, and this is where reaching women and youth as part of that sector is very important. Young professionals are going to be the drivers behind the solutions of the future, and they have that contextual knowledge of their countries, they can bring the voices of their communities, they can consult and bring through, identify the needs and bring through the adapted solutions on the ground for each country. Each country is very unique, and those, as you said, really for Canada, like reaching into the communities, finding out what the knowledge that is already there and bringing it into the solutions that are being developed is very important. And so one thing, GGI works in terms of setting up ICT hubs, setting up mentoring programs for SMEs, for startups, creating pathways for professionals to set up their businesses, get access to seed funding, to accelerator funding, to get businesses up and running. And that's a very important part of supporting the ecosystem. And then on the government side, we work to look at how can the policies and regulations support that kind of innovation. For example, in Vietnam, we've worked on an energy efficiency program that looks to how can energy efficiency startups be supported to build an innovation ecosystem for that particular sector. And even looking at how to, doing policy gap analysis and then integrating, even changing the laws and regulations so that there's going to be opening up that space for private sector and startups to come in and to be able to implement the solutions that they're thinking of. And we also heard the example of the project in Asia on buildings. Those kind of tools that are being developed also can then be used by decision makers, by policy makers, to use data-driven approaches to change policies and to select the best solutions to move forward. Finally, I think I'd like to touch on, well, another very key example is how AI and digitalization is being used to adapt, for example, to develop connected with climate change. Like, for example, in Burkina Faso, where one of the first largest digital MRV databases and systems have been set up. It's digitalized, it's online, it's accessible to everybody that needs to use it. And when the NDC 3.0 was developed, that also used AI to integrate gender considerations and to model forward to see, how are different policy decisions going to impact on gender and inclusion into the NDC and into climate action. So I think on the last thing that I'll say to touch on this is the digitalization and AI as an enabler for energy access. I think that's been touched by quite a few on the panel as well. And it's absolutely critical. There's so many tools out there that can be advanced, such as like remote troubleshooting, pay-as-you-go systems, smart metering, prepaid metering, working with utilities, but and working with technicians all the way down to the local level. It requires a lot of capacity building. It requires to adapt those tools to keep integrating the newest innovations that can be available, because we're still not reaching out to that last mile, and this is the opportunity to do that. And again, I'll come back and say that I think contextualization to the ground, working with the national entities and utilities, but all the way down to the SMEs that are working in each of the communities. That's where these innovations need to reach. And in order to reach that level, we need capacity building of the workforce. And it hasn't been mentioned a lot, but the backbone of all of this is to be able to access funding and finance. And that also requires financial innovation. So it's a very multidisciplinary area where there's opportunity to create partnerships and work together to reach the last mile, so digital technology, AI can reach everyone. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Katrina. Thanks for round of applause for Katrina, please. Thanks. Also, one point you mentioned was quite really fundamental is the ecosystem, because when you say the ecosystem inside, you have all the partners, private sector policy, drivers, but also philanthropy, and how we can ensure that the women-led, activities and SMEs are also taken into consideration. But there's also one fundamental question is that while we helping low-income countries to just really kind of catch up, right, the trend, high-income countries are also still multiplying the growth in terms of AI digitalization. And I would like to ask Ambassador Jenny Kim, when you look at the situation when you have high income continue, that's strong in accelerate development when it comes to digitalization, especially on the industry sector, and low-income countries also are still behind. What is your point of view in terms of the best way to help to maintain that kind of just transition, right? Or just possibility for low-income countries to catch up, reduce their learning curve very quickly, to be able also to integrate, those kind of countries, they really relying on those support, particularly from the industry part?
Not from the industry point, from the philanthropy point, yes. It's from the philanthropy point, like justice, that's really the high virtue. And also we all know that actually climate change, that's a global challenge, and it needs global partnership and global collaboration to find solutions, yes. Therefore there is no question why we need to bring everybody on board. I think it's so explicit, it's so clear that everybody must be on board together, because we are living on one planet all together. And having said that, that's why I do believe the philanthropy must play bigger role in bridging the gap, because the many so-called least developed countries, governments does not have enough capacity, enough financing, and many like so-called private sector, big investors, they are interested in big market, big opportunity for bigger benefits. So who is really going to the place where the risk is high, people are vulnerable, and investment is rare? I believe that's the area that philanthropy should go. So because philanthropy money is generous, must be patient, and must take risk, and must help the most marginalized, most vulnerable group in the world. So that's why I see like PPPP, so-called public-private philanthropy partnership, is crucial. Public and philanthropy money can go first, then invite private sector for scaling up. So, as I said before, like that's why we did need to come up with like good synergy-producing partnership among different players, inviting government, multilateral development bank, philanthropy, and private sector. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jenny Kim. And I think it's good that you mentioned there is that gap that philanthropy can play. And I think we heard a lot about the PPP, public-private philanthropy partnership, which helped to just cover all the issues when it's linked to, blended finance, as well as ensuring that all the financial instruments are used to support in that direction. But another question I maybe will ask for Victor is, how Canada is preparing, its power sector, when it comes to growing AI industry, which is really growing very fast, but also why it's staying on net zero pathway. I think that's good to hear your perspective on that.
Okay, so Canada is also focusing on energy for AI as well as AI for energy. So energy for AI is, of course, the power industry, whereas AI for energy is what we discussed previously about how we are using AI in the energy industries to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and increase efficiency, but also for the corporates, reduce cost optimization. In Alberta, last year, we announced that we will have Canada's largest data center, or globally speaking, the largest data center complex was announced as a $70 billion investment project. So in the US, there is a Silicon Valley. In Canada, there will be a Wonder Valley. Main reason that it's called Wonder Valley is the investing company is Kevin O'Reilly. Nickname is Mr. Wonderful. If you don't know him, he's like the Shark Tank. He's like the main businessman from Canada that owns global conglomerates. So there's a $70 billion data center investment proposal, and we are looking at using Canada's blue hydrogen and hydrogen fuel cells, and looking at opportunities to use maybe small modular reactors, so low carbon energy in powering data centers. And also using our environment. The Western Canada, Rocky Mountain is very cold. It can get up to minus 40s, 50s in the winter. And I remember this June when I visited Banff. In June, there were snows. So, it can be cold in the mountains too. So cooling, we don't require a lot of water. There's a technologies that can use, existing cold weather and less water using blue hydrogen and hydrogen fuel cells. So we are looking at various options to power these data centers to be more optimized. And also we are working closely with GGGI's hydrogen team to explore collaboration opportunities with different GGGI members. If there's any technologies or companies have interest in PPP or PPPP, then they can consider joining in Canada's largest data center project to work together on providing energy for AI industry.
Thanks very much, Victor. It's good to hear there's a different opportunity to using different type of energy. Hydrogen is one. And I think it's good to hear that there's a collaboration with GGI in that direction. So, we hear a lot of different sectors and also the complexity of this particular aspect. So, Katrina, I want to ask you one question. If in the room we have young professionals who want to work at the intersection of green energy, technology, and justice, what will be your message to them?
Well, sometimes, Matt, I feel like the young professionals in the room could tell me what they could do in AI and digitalization, because I mean, young people are right now out there developing things that 20 years ago we couldn't even imagine. But I guess I would say that, I mean, this is a key opportunity. I think many people have said it, like right here we have the clean energy transition, we have the digital transformation, and it's a moment to bring those things together there's an opportunity to do it very purposefully, to support countries on green growth, on climate action, and also to make sure that it's done as our DG has said, as Mr. Ban Ki-moon said this morning, with passion, but also compassion, developing solutions. Young professionals can be the people that develop the solutions that are going to reach that last mile, that can reach those who are not getting access to electricity, and finally bridge that gap and finally achieve the SDG goals. So I think I would say, it's not always easy, but there's, they can look at solutions that can expand energy in a low-cost way, in an affordable way, in a just and equitable way. That will make a huge difference to the world. So be guided by the realities on the ground, but always seek solutions with curiosity, with optimism, and maintain a commitment, of course, to sustainability in the long term. Yeah.
Thank you. I think there's a lot of room for young professional and young, let's say, entrepreneur to just help us to really move the needle when it's come to this just energy transition. I want to just invite Dr. Siliwanti for Indonesia. So I would like to hear from your perspective, if there's one lesson that other countries can learn from Indonesia when Indonesia approach and balancing rapid renewable energy development with just this opportunity, what would be your points there?
Maybe I would like to mention about the Indonesia experience, right? So I don't know, maybe the other country will learn or not, but I would like to have mention about our experience. So actually, the first is just an inclusion must be part of the design, not an afterthought. So it is very, very important. So under our National Medium-Term Development Plan, our renewable energy program are evaluated, not only for their emission impact, but also for their contribution to the social and regional equity. Using AI-based spatial and socio-economic analysis, we assess whether project benefit for the vulnerable groups and lagging region, helping us avoid what we call a transition divide. The second is data and measurement. Digitalization makes energy equity measurable. In the case of Indonesia, through the integrated social welfare data and the integrated data for the acceleration extreme poverty system, we connect energy, welfare, and economics data to precisely target electricity subsidies and clean energy program to low-income households, especially in the remote and underserved area. And the third is we promote community-based renewable energy. Across Indonesia, hundreds of small-scale solar, biomass, hydro systems are being built and managed by village-owned enterprises and cooperatives. So this is not only expand access, but also build local ownership and green job creation. So this is that our lesson learned experience, right? So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for sharing that. I'm looking conscious about the time. I would probably give the opportunity to Danielle to just do the closing on that. But I would like to say thank you to our panelists for those insightful inputs, but also sharing their experience, moving for regulation policy. You mentioned technology that need to be modernized, finance system, solid bankable project, all help us to transform economy. But I think not only the transformation, but also how they can accelerate it with just an inclusive approach as well. So with that, I would like to say a round of applause to our panelists. Thank you very much for that, and I'll hand it over to Daniel.
Thank you, Male. I'll just read quickly through my closing remarks. Powering Justice, Digital Innovation for an Inclusive Energy Future. I would say it's a very powerful title.
And we've heard from the panelists that this section we've gone from not only technological acceleration, but also ethical and social transformation, which is where the real sustainability when it comes to just transition lies. Powering justice will require digitalization and AI as enablers and catalysts, which we've heard repeatedly, to make renewable systems smarter, cheaper, and more accessible. And they don't replace energy transitions or policies. They make them work faster and more efficiently. One of the, some of the key points I want you to remember before you leave this room will be that energy not only needs to be smarter, but fairer so that no people or group are left behind. Fairness should cut across distributional, procedural, and most importantly, the jurisdictional or recognition aspect of justices. There is a need to bridge the gap or the digital divide at all levels of society, but also at the firm level, because corporations are big or small, may also have issues related to fairness when it comes to access. Ownership of tools and data in regards to issues related to decision making is important, especially within each jurisdiction. Today we hear a lot about sovereignty, issues of security that could actually affect how all the laudable things we've said could really be implemented efficiently. But most importantly, capacity and skill needs to be developed to implement programs and projects across board. Partnership and collaboration is key, and justice in digital innovation for an inclusive energy future means ensuring that the benefits of AI and digitalization are shared equitably, governed transparently, and shaped collectively, so that every community, not just the connected elite, participates in and prosper from the energy transition. And that's exactly what we are doing at GGGI, to look at the work we do with our member states and our partners to ensure that they go through this process, ensuring that everybody's taken along. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our Powering Justice session. Again, many thanks to all of our speakers, our panelists. Another round of applause, and thank you very much.